Hope you're ready. It's time for Decentralize Now.
Free the people, free the markets. Decentralize Now.
Season 2.
Well, hey, thanks for tuning into another episode of Decentralize Now. So we've had a couple of guests on in the past couple of weeks. We've got another one on. It's probably a strange introduction because typically I go through an introduction. I have like this long, detailed list of all these things that they've done. But this person, is kind of a very mysterious figure to me. I guess I'll kind of introduce basically the way that I began to interact with this person. Over social media. I've started making some posts about some interesting topics, and I got a chime from this person kind of out of nowhere, and that developed into a very interesting series of messages where I just was able to interact with this person who has a very unique perspective. And anytime that there's a new topic that I kind of want to get some more information on from an interesting opinion, I just toss it into this feed and I get terrific feedback. There's very interesting things to say. So I have almost this personal, this personal mechanism by which I get some interesting information. And I thought it might be a good idea to, if this person was willing, to make that sort of public so other people could experience that as well. Because it has been, a lot of interesting information as well. So we have someone right now by the name of Ovid, who's going to be joining us. We're just going to be asking him some questions about, what he wants to share about some of his experiences and also some of his opinions about what's going on at a deeper level. So, Ovid, thanks for joining Decentralize Now, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Chemtrail Commando, for introducing me to Busted. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for the production. Absolutely. And just a little background on me, my CV. Essentially, you could call me a guerrilla journalist. You could call me an activist. You could call me a lot of things. I've been kind of all over the place. I really just kind of have gone into directions that I felt passionate about. And I never really knew where I was going to end up. Actually, what ended up happening was I started trying to be in sales and came across the activism / libertarian / anarchist community. And at the time, it was still kind of this post Looney Tune environment of 9/11, people. And I didn't really know how to vet the people who were around me. And that turned into what is now just over a decade of working my way into the inner activist community who cares a lot about various things that I am very passionate about. And really, I do have a child, and that was really my main motivator behind the things that I was doing. But the way that obsession works is you don't just decide you're going to be obsessed with something. You wake up one morning and you just go, oh, fuck, I'm that guy now. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of different things I've been into. I've delved into things. I would say I'm a jack of all trades, but I talk to a lot of people that are way smarter than me, and I'll admit it in a second, because I believe that in order to grow, you have to have that around you. So real quick, before we get into more stuff, I would just like to give credit to 3 people in particular who have helped me discuss some of the things that we'll be discussing today. An individual that wants to be referred to only as Narwhal, holler out to you, homie, big homie. My friend Casper and another friend named Reyes have all kind of tried to help me wrap my head around this Corona, 19 business. And if it were not for them, I would not be able to deliver hardly any of this stuff. So thanks to those guys. My brain power is here, but they provided me with a lot of info.
Well, yeah, and let's kind of get started. 'Cause that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So, COVID-19, is this a disease? Is this a weapon? Is it a scam? Is it a magic spell? Like, this thing has happened, and whether you take it seriously or not, there's no denying that it's changed society on a fundamental level. So, if I could just ask this a grotesquely large question, an open-ended question, what are we experiencing here? What is happening?
Well, essentially, I mean, I have a whiteboard sitting in front of me, and I was trying to figure out what exactly to do in order to answer that specific question, because I know that's the big question.
Right.
And there's two branches you can go. Wasn't made in the lab. How can we tell? If it's yes, I have my resources and the things that people have shown me, and then I look at the rest. If it's no, we do have to acknowledge objectively that we only have circumstantial evidence and hearsay, which, if you want to get into a real environment of investigation, follow the money. I will never stop saying that. Follow the money. And we have, I'll just start going straight into it here. Event 201, are you familiar?
No, why don't you educate us? What's Event 201?
Okay, so the World Economic Forum, Johns Hopkins Department of Health, whatever, and Bill and Melinda Gates on October 18th, 2019 in New York, they practiced an exercise in pandemic event response where they were trying to basically stress test what relationships would need to be cultivated in a hurry in the event of a pandemic, which is very interesting. You also have Dr. Francis Boyle, who is the creator of the Biological Weapons Act, has come out and stated that this is a biological weapon. And what he believes, and he said this in an interview, and by the way, I just want to remind everyone, all the skeptics, etc. Margaret Thatcher once said to somebody, if I walked on water, people would say that it's because I can't swim. So that's why I'm going to provide many links and other resources, and etc., so people can look into this stuff and people can make their own decisions. But he was the drafter of the Biological Weapons Act, Dr. Francis Boyle, and he believes that this is a weaponized version of MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. It was discovered in 2012, and then it was transported to be studied in Canada. And he believes it was stolen by a Chinese scientist. We'll get into that in a minute here. And he also pointed out that publications like Zero Hedge have been shut down for making publications about these facts. Not to mention, there's also DARPA has dumped millions of dollars into research on these types of diseases coming from bats and how it can affect humans. I honestly believe that these are facts. Everyone can make their own decisions, but this is, it's a thing. And then we go back to Event 201, the practice in New York. We go to ID 2020. This is affiliated with the Rockefeller Foundation and a foundation called Gavi, which identifies as a vaccine alliance. You can go to the website. I'll provide that link in a day or two and everyone can look at it. They're using language which basically insinuates that we might get computer chipped with mandatory vaccines, and that people will actually be required to have that vaccine in order to get certain privileges. And we've seen Nancy Pelosi and others try to come out with bills in the wake of this to instill digital currencies. I mean, people have been talking about these things for a long time, and I know that people like me sound like lunatics, but it's happening. And we have to objectively accept the fact that, as crazy and fear-mongering as we sound, it's being written, and they're attempting to write things into legislation. These people have websites, and actually, I want to read something to you. Give me just a moment. Have you heard about the slew of CEOs that have stepped down in the wake of this?
Yeah, I've seen that. There's been a curious amount of CEOs who just step down all of a sudden. Kind of abandoning their companies. So that would be kind of interesting, a perspective there.
Okay, give me just a second here.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. I'm switching applications, so I'm just making sure I know what I'm doing here. Okay. So the CEO of Disney, Microsoft, Hulu, IBM, LinkedIn, Uber Eats, Salesforce, and Velocity, eBay, MGM, Nestle, Volkswagen, MasterCard, Nissan, Victoria's Secret, and Bed Bath & Beyond, T-Mobile, Harley Davidson, whatever WeWork is, Juul, Tinder, OkCupid, and Hinge all stepped down. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the fuck that means, but it means something, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
that
fucking
being
crazy,
said,
man. That's a lot of big hitters. Those are big fucking companies.
I'm not gonna pretend to know what the fuck is going on, guys. Okay, I'm just telling you what I've seen. Right.
Right.
Are you enjoying the podcast? Just kidding. We know you are, and you're welcome. You're listening to Decentralize Now.
So that being said, we have a scenario. We start off with a scenario. So we've asked, is this made in a lab? The answer, in my opinion, is fucking probably. And then we have to ask another question, which is, why was it made? Well, there's a lot of different opinions on that. And when I first saw this, I thought CIA was written all over it. Because from my understanding, okay, this is what you have to understand about mutations, and this is when it gets into some dark territory that I'm not qualified to talk about, but I know just the basics. Life finds a way is a very old expression. Am I wrong?
No.
So what it means by that is that even your genes, your proteins, all the way down to a cellular level, mutations happen under tremendous stress. That's what mutations are. When you take an organism and it's built for a certain environment and then it goes to a different environment, which puts tremendous stress on it, it changes to try and survive. It kind of flips out and it says, okay, let's try this instead, right? And we call it a mutation. And there's a certain level of chaos involved in that. When you learn about biology, especially behavioral biology, you end up learning about chaos theory. And the way that genes code is a fractal, okay? So the thing about this is this mutation, I'm not pretending to be an expert, but when I looked at the things that people were observing about this new COVID, it took me about 3 to 5 minutes at the most to just decide this thing was made in a lab, because bats don't migrate like that. It's just not a thing. So, and I don't want to talk too much on that. I will drop the links, then people can make their own decisions, because then it gets into that weird, crazy territory. But why was it made? I would think Chinese population control, because now we get into the realm of economics. When you have a government that's gone too far to the left, and I don't mean liberal, I mean big government. Big government on the left, to the right, all the way to the right is anarchy. That's my scale, okay? There's nothing to do, as far as I'm concerned, conservatives are to the right, or to the left, excuse me. You know what I mean? So when you have a government that's gone too big and the economics just aren't working anymore, one way that you can solve the problem is to get people out of the country. That's what I believe the immigration crisis within America is about. And that's what I believe that this could have been about. But it could also be something else, which is the CIA knowing that China is going to fall for this deal, and they set up 2 Chinese scientists to transport this thing, and now they're being charged with things, And I'll get into that in a second just to explain what I'm talking about. But when you think about it, the CIA is very good at social manipulation, social engineering, boxing people in. And what I think could have happened is that these Chinese scientists that I'll talk about in a second flew from Canada to Wuhan and then caused an outbreak, and then they got screwed over and they didn't even realize that they were part of a CIA operation. That could be a very real possibility, and it could be for the interests of us wrecking China and even Iran's economy. And actually, as it turns out, and I'll have to find the source on this, I was looking for it all day because I've been sifting through stuff like crazy, but apparently the lab in Wuhan that this thing broke out from is owned by Israel, which is interesting.
Can you say that again?
I have to find the source, but I'll find it eventually. I believe that I learned that this lab that in Wuhan that this thing broke out from is actually owned by Israel.
But I know, like the state, like a
that
state
wouldn't
of
surprise
Israel.
me in the fucking slightest. Like, not even a little.
Yeah, and that's what I said. And the thing is, I'll have to look more into that because that's one of those things that I really want to have a source on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no problem.
And you were saying, Chinese population control. Look at Hong Kong. All the riots stopped. That's all the protests just done overnight.
Well, that's another thing is that there, the Chans. I'm sure you're familiar with the website, the Chans, the various ones. I've been looking at Finnish Chans, various ones. People are in consensus for the most part a lot of the time that this is a setup to stop the Hong Kong protest by the Chinese government. But the thing is, if I was the CIA and I wanted to fuck up Chinese economy, I would just tell them, oh, we're going to help you with Hong Kong, and then I would screw them over, and then they're screwed now, and then we can just do whatever we want. Not whatever we want, but it's not a bad theory. I know it's all theories at this point, but
let me jump in here too, because I want to comment on that. So we have this idea that it's a nefarious organization, maybe Israelis, maybe CIA, whatever. Let's say it was CIA or United States, or backed by the United States, or an ally of the United States, whatever, Western, to destabilize the economy of China. But in retrospect, it seems like it was unfortunate, but they locked down Wuhan and they pretty much got out of that thing. You know what I mean? And then again, there's a theory that, well, the reports that we're hearing from China, we can't really believe. Maybe it's all Chinese communist bullshit, and they haven't really got out. But from the records, at least the public records from WHO and those types of organizations, China's okay. And now there's this blowback here in the United States, and whether or not it's a serious illness or if there's a really any teeth to this thing, it has shut down our economy. Stocks are down, people are out of work. So are people saying that it was an attempt to destabilize China that kind of backfired, or are people saying what's being experienced here in the U.S. is a part of the plan as well?
Well, what I do want to say is this is where I need to step in and say that this is larger than governments. This is larger than what the average person can conceive of, because this is, in my opinion, we've got videos of guys walking around cities and hospital workers not being allowed to talk about coronavirus. We got weird number reports all around the globe. We don't know whether it's worse or better than what people are saying. And I have friends who are of the opinion that this is a giant shit test to advance the surveillance, information state. And there's stock investors that are talking about how algorithms on the internet completely changed overnight. And how they're advancing, which I'll have to look more into that. That's something that I haven't even started looking at because I got ear-fucked today by a good friend about that.
Even if it's not created for that reason, there's no way they're not taking full advantage of the situation to do that.
Yes. That's a huge thing that I believe is going on. And I compare this to 9/11 in a lot of ways, because 9/11 was a weird thing where we saw violence. We saw in a few hours explosions, buildings toppling over, things of that nature. And the response by citizens was to respond with a slighter, equally, like a proportionate level of skepticism that was almost violent. Oh, Israel was in on it. The FBI, CIA knew about these guys. They let them meet in Germany, the whole thing, right? But with this, I mean, it even snuck up on me, you know? And so I think that this thing is going to taper off over a much longer period of time than even 9/11. And the thing that we need to be worried about is the economic implications of this, the closed doors information security implications of this. What legislation are they going to write? This is a whole thing that I don't think anyone has ever seen in the history of mankind. And I got people that think that this thing's been orchestrated over the course of the last 200 years. Now, if you listen to guys like Peter Schiff, who's a very good economist, predicted the 2008 housing crisis, predicted infinite quantitative easing, which I listened to him talk about yesterday for 3 hours. I don't know if you know, but the Federal Reserve said they're willing to do infinite quantitative easing to combat this thing, which is insanity in its finest. He thinks that these people aren't even smart enough to crash the economy on purpose. And I don't know. I don't really know what to do with both sides of that seesaw. Does that make sense? Like, I have to ask myself which ones are smart enough, which one, because if you get into things like human action by Mises and then go your way up to Rothbard, you understand that we are downplaying the fact that there are individuals within these institutions, and one person can make a whole thing happen before anybody sees it coming. You know what I mean? So it's always more complex. And I was talking to an associate yesterday, and I had to explain to them, I'm like, you never know what's going on. I never know what's going on. You never know what's going on. The worst thing that you can do is decide you know exactly what's going on, because then you're going to stop thinking, and that's going to fuck you over.
You think you've heard it all? You haven't heard shit. Stick around for more Decentralize Now.
I got a report on my phone just now that actually the CDC is stating that the COVID-19 virus impacts men and women more than all other genders combined.
Actually, that's quite fascinating.
That's right. I just got a meme there.
Wait, I don't. Oh, okay. That's a good one. I took it seriously for a second because I was in the zone, and then I'm like, I had to think about it. I'm like, oh.
No, it's fucking crazy when you talk about stuff like going. Tell me a little bit more about that, or what you know, or at least what you're hearing. And again, I'm not holding you to anything. I know what I appreciate about you is you're very concerned about. I want to have my sources. I don't want to just spew bullshit. So, under the pretext of you're just saying some shit that you're hearing. Hey, here's some stuff. Here's some spaghetti on the wall that people are throwing. You talked a little bit about stuff that's been going on for 200 years, like generational shit. And the idea that there are things involved larger than governments. What can you tell us about that? Like, what kind of things do people think this is?
Well, it's one friend in particular, and I'll provide links to some of their work, or the work that they help with, at least I can say. And I encourage everybody. I don't want to take away from your show, but I think that their community would very much appreciate your show. So I think, it would really work out for everybody. And really, it was one of those things where I called them today because I was a little bit overwhelmed with all the information that I was absorbing. And they just blew me away with, like, talking a mile per minute. And I was just like, okay, I called you to make this better, not worse. Jesus Christ. But I take them seriously because I understand that they have looked at a lot of other stuff and more stuff than I have. And, there's a difference between reality and legislation, and everything has to work in a certain order, right? So, for example, the Stafford Act, which was put into place by Trump recently, that has, in the counterterrorism section, in Section J of that section, says that, quote unquote, the administrator basically says he can do whatever the fuck he wants. And that scared the shit out of me. But the thing is like, there's sections in legislation all over the place like that, but no one's ever done it. And the answer is, the question is why, but the answer is because we won't allow it. They're scared of us. And people really need to start remembering that. Like, there's these, groups of people that are like, oh my God, we have no control over anything. And it's like, no, we actually do. Like, it's not that they don't remember that they work for us. It's that they want to see what they can get away with. And that's what I'm concerned about with this crisis. And, that Section J of the Anti-Terrorism Act, that's like the last resort. You know what I mean? Because then they can just start chopping off heads, and then they go, well, we wrote it in the law. And then they can't say anything.
Do you think voting matters? Do you think voting can prevent that? Because, one thing we've talked a lot about on the show is, these libertarians and everything that's, I don't vote. Voting doesn't matter. Well, why are you part of a political party, Do you think voting changes that, or do you think people have to get violent and take action?
I think I think violence doesn't have to be physical. I think it can be verbal. I think it can be, amongst social media. I think it can be people taking up arms and protest online. I think it can be an act of simply warning them. Warning these people can be violent. And that's how they see it. Because, imagine being in that position, having that position threatened. It's got to be intimidating. The amount of pressure that you're already under. You don't have the fucking time to worry about what the entire internet is saying. But if all of a sudden the internet turns around and says, fuck you, you're going to start to get nervous, which is exactly what I think we need to be doing right now to the Federal Reserve, to this quarantine, which, by the way, I want to bring something up. All the stuff on this whiteboard here, I can't not talk about everything. This is why the quarantine's so bad, okay? The government created a credential after 9/11 called the OEM teams. I can only assume that it stands for Operations of Emergency Management. And basically, these people have been waiting to do their fucking jobs for like 20 years. And they're finally able to do their jobs. They finally got cut loose. And from what I hear, they're in a pissing contest to see who can be more alarmist, which is absolutely ridiculous, because here's the problem, is that we need to not stimulate the economy with Federal Reserve money. We need to tell young people, hey, you're not going to die. Go back to work. We are in the brinks of way worse than the Great Depression. Because in the Great Depression, because of cooperation, because of culture and other things like that, the price of living went down overall, despite us having less resources, which made it look worse, obviously, but we found a way. With this, the price of living is going to skyrocket, because if they propose unlimited quantitative easing, you shouldn't be worried about how much money you have. You should be worried about whether your money is fucking worth anything anymore.
Exactly right.
And so we need to, as a collective society, basically turn around and say fuck you to pretty much everything they're saying, because there's just something wrong here. And I can't tell whether it's sheer incompetence or if it's some 200-year-long conspiracy. All I know is what we have to do. And what we have to do is we have to come together, because the more that we as a society are have division, the more that they know they can manipulate us. and they can create algorithms to manipulate people over the internet. I mean, and by the way, I mean, the FBI has already listed fringe conspiracy theories as a threat to national security. I mean, it's already happened, and that just goes back to what I was talking about the Stafford Act, where they can do whatever, but the question is, are they going to do it? And it's our job to stand up for ourselves and make sure they fucking don't, because they know it's not going to turn out well for them, which I'm very disappointed in Virginia right now because of that legislation. I'm sure you know about that.
Exactly.
The gun grabbing thing, But anyways, just to finish up this goddamn whiteboard real quick so I can... 2 scientists left from Canada to go to the Wuhan lab.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Justice charged the chair of Harvard's chemistry and chemical bio department with making false statements. I didn't even know you could get arrested for that, but I guess he's in a position where he could be. I don't know what that means. Yang Ye, Chinese scientist, she's 29 years old. I think it's the girl. She got charged with visa fraud, false statements, quote unquote, and basically treason, being an agent of a foreign government and conspiracy. And then we have Zhao Song Zhang, who's 30 years old. I think he's the guy, and he's actually detained. He's in jail right now. They arrested him on December 10th, 2019. At the Boston Logan International Airport. They charged him with attempt to smuggle 21 vials of bio research to China. And the indictment went through as 1 count of smuggling and 1 count of, again, making false statements. So that's fucking interesting because they're calling it 3 separate incidents. But if you ask me, it doesn't look like 3 separate incidents because the chair of Harvard's whatever, and this Zhang guy were both in Boston. And by the way, the guy and the girl, the 2 Chinese, they're married. And by the way, they worked on Ebola, MERS, SARS, which also resembled what's happening right now, and they worked on protein binding, which is the mutation that occurred to make this thing apparently be what it is. And they also worked on HIV. And I'm going to have to try and find the source for this also. But I forget who told me, but somebody had pointed out to me that somebody spliced a gene from HIV into this new COVID-19, which makes it an autoimmune disease, which means your common cold and everything is going to be worse. And that's the way that they're obfuscating this thing, is that everybody's just going to not know what the fuck is going. They're not going to know whether they have COVID or whether they just have a bad cold. It's, and that's how they can hide the numbers. Now, I might be full of shit when I get into this technical stuff, but the people that I work with and talk to, some of them are 5152s. They literally get paid by their foreign governments to not work, and they just have 24 hours in a day to just stare at this shit. I do not have that luxury.
Let me ask you this here. There are some people who think that it's, hey, this is not a big deal. It's going to blow over pretty soon. The more optimist vision. Do you think there's any validity to that at all?
I think it will blow over, but they're trying to. I think there's a war going on right now. I think there's a little, because there was a ex-CIA, a retired CIA guy who was on the Tom Woods show. And he had said that there's 2 factions within our government, but they're not the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a much more complex, nuanced thing of 2 groups of people behind the scenes who are battling basically the deep state, is what he was talking about. And they're using the 2 parties in order to do that. So what I think, in my opinion, is going on is the left, so to speak, is trying to move in the way of, say, digital currencies and more control and things of that nature. and the more right-leaning people in the deep state might be fighting for a new gold standard again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see that happen. But also, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. I know I'm all over the place. I've been ingesting shit all day. But there's a company suing. Oh, yeah. Let's get rid of this whiteboard. Where the hell is that? Hold on. I'm staring at it. Still can't see it. Oh, there it is. Larry Klayman of Freedom Watch. You can find their institution at freedomwatchusa.org. He is accusing China of developing an illegal bioweapon. And they're suing China. They're pursuing a lawsuit of $20 trillion. He put it in through a Texas federal court. So if that goes through, that will be a very interesting series of statements about, say, I don't know, the national debt.
Yeah, I don't really want to think about what this is going to do to that. $2 trillion, like this would, like, it's a good thing, Ron Paul, I don't know. Just hearing about how much we're spending. Like, a person like Ron Paul to work so hard to try to balance the budget and to, fight government spending and this generational debt. And then to hear that, over something like this, we're just going to shit out $2 trillion. I can only imagine, the pain he's going through. Go ahead.
No, the only thing I have to say is, like, yeah, it would be great if, for us, it would be great for us if we got $20 trillion out of China for damages. But at the same time, I was talking to somebody and they were discussing this, and I told them, okay, that's great, but I want to know what horrible shit that we did to people in order to earn $20 trillion fucking dollars, because that matters. You know what I mean? $20 trillion to fork out another $2. Come on, man.
I want to know who killed Jeffrey Epstein. That's what I want to know.
I don't think that who killed him is one thing. Who ordered it, and who knows how it went down, the whole story. I mean, that is
clearly the Clintons. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of oh my god, who is the person behind? No, it's the Clintons. It's the Clintons.
I mean, have you seen the Black Book? Have you seen the Black Book?
Yeah, we had the Black Book. And
I have it downloaded. I've called a ton of those fucking numbers, dude. Like, John Kerry's fucking
ring.
numbers is, straight on there. You just call his fucking cell phone. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when you have a situation with that many people involved, look, I keep my inner circle fucking small, and I'm still stressed out. Like, I don't know what the fuck that guy was going through, and I'm not defending him at all, obviously, because my nature, which we can get into next, because I'm pretty much, I'll drop the links and give it to you guys, and you can distribute them when it comes to the Corona stuff. But me, I would never defend Epstein, but I can only imagine the connections and the weird shit that was going on behind the scenes. Like, I don't think you can just drop the name Clintons for that, because that list was long, dude.
That's true. The royal family was involved in all that shit too, so.
You're currently listening to the best podcast in the whole fucking universe.
Decentralize now.
You had gotten some work, and this is kind of how our relationship or interactions kind of began. I know you've done some work on these types of issues, and you mentioned sort of investigative journalism, guerrilla journalism. So I'm just going to keep it real open-ended. Can you describe for me whatever you're comfortable sharing about your investigations into sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, and bringing these people to justice? I know you also said you wanted to talk about maybe your mentor and kind of a warning, if you will, for people who are looking to get into that. If you listen to this program, and we started as a libertarian podcast, then I came onto Pizzagate very late. Like, a couple months, I would say about 6 or 8 months ago. That's all I wanted to think about for 2 or 3 months. That's all I wanted to think about. I was just so blown away. But over time, even researching it will wear you down. You know what I mean? And I haven't even got into this at a deep level. Just the idea that stuff happens wore me down so much that I was losing my sanity. And all we would talk about were the Finders and Elsagate and Pizzagate and all this shit, and I just had to walk away from it. So I just kind of wanted to open it up and ask, what are you willing to share about that and your experience, and also, what kind of warnings and what did you want to share about your mentor as well?
Well, all right. So I came into. Okay.
You want a moment?
No. It's fine. I just wanted to ask, how do you guys feel about racial slurs? Because this is just a goofy story, but it involves a racial slur.
Yeah, we frown upon that. Please don't say nigger on the program.
You're good. He's fucking. You're good, man.
No, because I don't think of it as a racial slur. I like to joke that the word nigger hasn't been referring to black people since Xbox Live came out.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
That's hysterical. That's hysterical.
Fucking O. Love it.
Yeah. And so anyways, the way I met my mentor, I was invited to a certain group chat, which was on Facebook, which, God, I don't even know how to express my frustration with the people that think that they're operators and they have group chats on Facebook. You're giving your information to the NSA and calling yourself an operator. I'm sorry. No. But anyways, so I get invited in there and I'm already skeptical, and I just start saying the word nigger just to see who can tolerate it, just to be an asshole, because I'm already done with these people. And my mentor thought it was hilarious. And then when they kicked me out of the group chat, he came back and he hit me up personally and he said, "That was fucking hilarious. Who are you?" And we were instantly friends. And we had this long friendship, years-long friendship. And he slowly helped me descend into this world of honeypotting these chomos, who I will from now on refer to them as pedos, chomos. And what he would do, he was in a situation where he had multiple women who he had children with, 2 or 3, I believe, and he was not near his kids. And he felt a certain type of way about that. He loved his kids. So if anyone ever listens to this, especially his kids, I want them to know he did love his kids, and it tortured him. But anyways, he decided he was going to take on local chomos and honeypot them. And essentially what that means, honeypot is a multifaceted word. It essentially means, a trap. It can be technical, it can be social, social engineering, whatever. There's multiple uses for that term. But he would, literally, I saw him ask for permission of mothers to use their daughters' pictures to pretend to be a young girl, to, lure on this person. And he would say, you live in this state, he lives in that state, I know what to do. If you want to help me. If you don't want that to happen, then that's fine. I'm just, I'm not trying to be weird about it. And I'm not talking about naked pictures, just pictures. You know what I mean? And the thing about chomos is that they're arrogant. They have a weird arrogance about them. Like there's actually, like, if you get, I'm sure you guys know, but when you get molested as a child, a lot of the time there's biological responses. It's almost like the body decides, oh, this is when we're supposed to start to have sex. And you end up with, I'm sure you guys have watched To Catch a Predator. You see the guys and they're kind of awkward, and they often have high-pitched voices, and they're like, they just come across a weird type of way. And ask anybody who's ever gone to jail. Chomos have a way about them. And I think that a lot of the time that's what it is that they're victims and they turned around and they projected that. And there's a biological, implication to that, right? So
I don't think I agree with that.
Well, no, I mean, there's different types of chomos. there's the ones that are into power and rape, and there's ones that are just doing the wrong thing, but they're fucked up in the head from being a victim. And there's ones that are just downright. I mean, here's the thing that really pisses me off. I'm not trying to defend chomos at all, because when you go into the deep web and by the way, I disable all images, video, everything in my browser when I go into the deep web and look for these guys. If it even has to get to that point, because honestly, I get plenty of people that message me on the clear web and say, hey, I think this guy's a chomo and you should look into it. But if I do have to do that, like I don't do anything illegal, but it's bad enough to see how these guys talk. Mm-hmm. So like you take that guy who's on Catch a Predator, and like part of you as a man kind of wants to think like, oh, he's like fucked up in the head, and but then that same guy, I can guarantee you, gets on the internet or the deep web and he talks about raping children like it's going to a fucking baseball game, and it's absolutely infuriating. So, you know, when I got shown that by my mentor, that's what really kicked me into high gear. But between me and him, it was like he was more into the honeypotting and the local stuff. Me, I wanted something bigger. So we started going after networks. We started trying to get in with admins of networks, of small forums in the deep web, and, you know, offering services, whatever. And then we would build dossiers, and then we would send them to, you know, of just information, and we would just send tons and tons and tons of shit to the right people. Because the way that we look at it is, rest his soul. If you hurt an innocent woman or child, any child or an innocent woman, the gloves come off. I will send a fucking dossier to the feds. Like, I don't give a shit anymore. That's on you. Like, a man has to have a code. You know what I mean? Now, do I like it? No. But I do it anonymously, and also I don't fucking have a helicopter and fucking shields and SMGs, you know, because we weren't fucking with people that was, you know, that were that you could just fuck with. We're not fucking with average Joe anymore. You know what I'm saying? So as long as these assholes go away,
people who were, it got deeper to like real organized criminal.
Yeah, no, I've had phone calls from the fucking cartels. I've you know, where I've had phone calls where people just call me and say, stop doing what you're doing. They're like, we won't. Yeah, like that's it. You know, and I don't like the fact that I had to stop doing it, but at the same time, it's like I can't, because these people, they're not normal. What you would think it is. They have, you know, white hackers. They have people that are doing what you're doing way better than you can do it. Like, they know how to just pay people to do shit. And, you know, there's like white guys who are computer nerds living in foreign countries who are helping them do all this shit. And you get a call from that guy and you're like, oh shit, he does not have a Brazilian accent. That guy sounds like he's from fucking California. And he's just like, listen, dude, if you don't stop, we're going to have to kill your whole family. And then they just click up the phone. And at that point, it's like, you know what, at the very least, can we just fucking give it a rest? You know, and that was the thing between me and my mentor, where it was like, it was like a weird buddy cop movie where he wanted to just bust the door in everywhere he went. And I had to stop him and be like, dude, we can't. Dude, this is getting... And he just didn't care. And eventually, slowly, he started to kind of meet me in the middle. And what ended up happening with him was, you know, and he always told me, he said, you got to take breaks, dude, because this shit will eat you alive. You cannot fucking look at this shit all day and not get sick in the head. Like, not sick in the head like you're gonna fuck a kid, but just, you'll start drinking and drugging, and you'll and you'll get damaged, and it's just like, it's fucked up because like I have a kid too, you know what I mean? It's like one, so what ended up happening is he didn't take breaks. He told me to take breaks because he was worried about me, but in the meantime, he would go out on his own and do a bunch of shit. And I started to notice that he was slowly into this mental decline. And he started drinking, and he had drugged in the past, but he was clean for a while. And then he just went down and down and down. And I started getting these calls from his girlfriend like, yo, we're $5 low on rent at his parents' house, and he's waving a gun around in the backyard, and he's screaming in the background. He's like, I know where the fucking vault is. I know what window they leave unlocked. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And she would say, he's thinking about robbing the dope boys down the street. He's going stick up kid right now. I'm like, over $5? I'm like, yo, just walk down the street and wait till you see somebody and ask somebody for $5 or something. Are you fucking crazy? And he just started going worse and worse and worse and worse. And then, a couple things happened where I just decided, like, I have to distance myself from this man because he's just lost it, and it hurt my feelings because he was like a father to me. And eventually he ended up passing away, which I can only assume was either suicide or he knew he was dying from his substance abuse, because he called his younger kids and said, Daddy has a health problem, I love you. And we know he wouldn't have called his older kids because they would have done something about it. But his decline into madness that lasted about a year and a half is a perfect example of what can happen to you. And I'm not talking about seeing things. I'm talking about reading things and then interacting with these fucking scumbags. I mean, my hand is shaking right now because it's disgusting. It sends chills up my spine. Like, you don't want to think that these people exist, but like you turn around, and guy from Catch a Predator, he seems like a dumbass, but then the moment he gets on the deep web or whatever, he's a fucking monster. And it's like, I don't believe that these guys are just fucking innocent at all. I think they know exactly what they're doing like 90% of the time. And if they don't, they're mentally fucking retarded.
I'll tell you, it's. Oh, go ahead, Buster. Go ahead.
I was gonna say kill them all anyway. Fuck it. Like, I don't give a shit. If they, you know what I mean? Fuck it. If you're doing that shit, I don't care that you're fucking mentally retarded. You want to be treated equal? We'll shoot you in the face like we did all the other ones.
I'll tell you, like what you're talking about. I mean, Buster could probably relate, but I mean, I obviously never went through to the level that your mentor went through or that you went through. But even for you to do that stuff, I mean, you're a better man than me. I wouldn't have the stomach for it. It was just 3 months of reading basic stuff, like normie web articles on this exists and some Wikipedia stuff, and then I did the research that others had compiled on Pizzagate. You know what I mean? So I wasn't in it in a deep sense. I mean, I'm just the information, just stuff you would get if you started looking around, and then seeing some of the Elsagate videos. Like, after about 3 months, like, I didn't want to turn my head. Like, I felt like I just felt terrible. You know what I mean? And I don't have a strong mind for it. You know what I mean? And I remember trying to put my kid to sleep at night and just being on edge. It was terrible. So it's rough.
It's anger is the thing that's going to get you through it. Like, in my opinion, I mean, everybody has a base emotion, but for me and for my mentor, rest his soul, I think it was just disgust and anger. And that's something that people kind of fuck up about the whole, like, moral fag is the term for members of Anonymous that do things for moral reasons. In the very beginning, it wasn't. I mean, I've been there since before 4chan was created. Like, I was on Newgrounds before 4chan was created. Like, I've been in that now my whole life.
Such a great website.
Yeah. But you know, what people kind of fuck up is they think that somebody just after, you know, we went after Chanology. Sorry, brain fart. After Chanology, like, people decided, oh, we're going to be the good guys. But no, the best of us were like, how do we get away with fucking people up? Oh, we just fuck up people that are meaner than we are. And that's how a lot of this, you know, stuff, this activism stuff really started. So, you know, when we say moral fag, it's like, no, you got to understand, like, we're not nice. We're just trying to get away with shit by, like, doing things that are really mean to people that actually deserve it.
Right.
You know, and you know, we shut down radios, all this shit. Like, you know, I wasn't there for all of it, but I pretty much witnessed, like, all the shit that you would see in, like, the fucking documentaries that were the worst thing to ever happen to Anons. But you know, in my opinion, anyways, people can contest that. But I just think, like, we weren't supposed to be that mainstream, because for a few years it went to shit, you know what I mean? But that being said, like, I mean, you mentioned Pizzagate. I do have something to say about that.
Yeah, sure.
I'm of the opinion that more was going on and somebody had to, because they got caught. Like, I think that it was orchestrated to cover up more of what was happening. And I'm also of the opinion that there are certain people within the hacker community which are or were contracted by government agencies in order to help cover that up or expose people that were going to get too close to what really happened. Like, if you think Pizzagate was deep, I think that was scratching the surface.
Oh, of course.
So,
of course,
in my personal scenario, I was contacted by an individual, and I have no qualms with this individual, so I won't say their name. I won't get too into it, but they had told me that they sent me some links, and they were basically pretending as though they were passing me the torch in a larger investigation they had been working on for years, which was tied to Pizzagate. And I was on the phone with them for 4 hours, and, you know, I just didn't trust them. And I think they tried to honeypot me, because they told me about a website on the clear web that was harboring something larger. And he said, once you get deep enough into the network, you can, you know, you reach a level where you understand that this is something else. And it was a junky website. It was weird. And it had the videos of, I don't know if you saw the videos of somebody abusing a child. They weren't physically abusing them, but it was like pictures of the shadow of a child in the back of a room, and a guy just fucking screaming at this kid, and like strobe lights were on and weird club lights, and they were just being fucking abusive.
It's terrible.
Nasty, and it was chilling. I can't. But, you know, it was like this weird website, and, you know, he wanted me to, you know, he told me, if you get deep enough in there, you're going to reach a level where it is NSA level security. He's like, I want you to build a team, go get in there, and he's like, once you get in there, you're going to need fake pictures. You're going to need to hack into that network, and you're going to need to create an identity that's already like 20 years involved. He told me, like, in order for me to, you know, get in there, I would have to break into their databases and blah, 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 the whole thing, and create a fake identity, and then somehow not get noticed as someone who hasn't been there for 2 decades, which is crazy. But he was talking about, their facial recognition and the whole thing. Like, he's like, you're going to have to get silicone masks and shit. And he's just like off the wall with everything. He's talking to me crazy. And, I'm just thinking to myself, wait, this is on the fucking clear web? And then he's telling me about this impossible task. I don't trust this fucking guy. And eventually I figured out that I don't know, like, he does shit, but I just think he's not that. Does that make sense? And
Sure.
I don't know whether someone got to him or whether he's just some sort of weird narcissist. But he also told me that he owned a database that got sent the original Pizzagate files, and that it was way worse and way more expensive. And then overnight, the Fed showed up and the documents were completely changed. That was his claim. And I don't know. There was just something weird about it.
Free the people, free the markets. Decentralize now.
So when it comes to Pizzagate, that's the first thing I think about, because that was the first time that I think someone tried to set me up. And you have to treat everybody in the deep web like a Fed. There's an etiquette where you don't talk about your favorite fucking football team. You type concisively with full grammar, good spelling. You don't give any swagger to anything that you do. You want to make yourself as invisible as possible. And the etiquette is that everyone is supposed to look like one another. You know what I mean? And, there's technology there's technology where if I type on a keyboard and my phone is sitting on the same table, up to like 40 or maybe 60% of those keystrokes can be mapped. And it's like the technology that exists, it's like you have to be robotic about this shit, man. Like, all the best hackers I know don't even want to own a fucking phone. So, it's just, you got to be very, very, very careful, because it's not even like you're doing anything illegal. But at the same time, there's just people in this world that the law doesn't apply to. And if you piss them off, you're in fucking trouble, because they have resources that most people cannot fathom. And I tell this to everybody. They don't catch you when they can. They catch you when they want to. And I tell that to everybody. So, that's my thoughts on Pizzagate, because honestly, like, everybody already knows everything else.
Damn, it's some chilling shit, man. It's just the type of person that could do this. Do you think it's just psychopathy? Like, do you think they just don't have the neurons to empathize? Or, I don't know. You talk about mental retardation. Obviously that could be an explanation. And you talked about the theory of, and I've heard the theory, that the person hits them when they're young and they kind of replicate it later on because, that kind of, chemistry change to that reaction. But, is it this psychopathy, like they have no ability to feel human emotions?
Well, actually, I think in a lot of cases it can be the opposite. There's been cases of kids getting molested where the fucking adult thinks they're doing them a favor. So it's like total projection. There's cases where it really is just like, total psychopathy. Sociopathy is prevalent also, but that's more along the lines of, like, in my experience anyways, from what I've seen, it's a power move. Like there was a guy that I was in jail with, and he was a quote unquote well-behaved inmate, so he got to be out as a janitor. So, like, at night, while they're mopping shit or whatever the fuck, he would, like, share books with me, and he would sit by my cell and talk to me and shit, because I went to high school with him. And then you know, I thought he was cool, but the problem was that, you know, I'm a hunter, and he was accused of, whilst selling spice, you know, the fake weed shit that people were smoking forever, trying to sell it to this girl, whatever, and she said, "Oh, I don't have any money, but I want some spice." And he allegedly asked her, "Oh, well, then can I fuck your 8-year-old daughter?"
Oh my god, dude, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah. And he was in there for that. And, you know, when I saw him in there, it was like, you know, I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't want to talk to anybody who's accused of that shit. But he started trading books with me and tried to get in with me and stuff. And he started to convince me that maybe she was just a bitch. But then he said to me, he goes, "Yeah, you know, my lawyer doesn't know what an IP address is. So I don't know if I'm going to get out of this." And I was like, this motherfucker is lying, because I got accused of a cybercrime, and, well, sort of. I won't get into that. I don't want to talk about that, out of respect for the alleged victim. But I know for a fact when my lawyer stepped in the room, he was like, "All right, give me a loophole. Did you use a proxy, VPN, anything? Give me a loophole." So when he said that, I was like, these fucking lawyers know exactly what an IP is. Get the fuck, this motherfucker's, and I felt disgusting.
Well, you think they're not gonna fucking like research whatever their client's in trouble for? You know, like okay, so he got in trouble with something on the internet. Let me go to the computer. Google, what is internet?
Exactly. It was just like I felt gross and embarrassed and disgusted, because I fell for it for a while, because you're in jail. You're trying to make what connections you have. You don't want to believe that this dude you grew up with is a fucking chomo. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But when he said that, I was like, fuck. God damn it. Like it was like fucking Fredo from The Godfather 2, you know what I mean?
Mm. It's weird too. I mean, you said jail. I'm assuming it wasn't prison. I mean, I've, at least in my experience, the jail I've been to where I live, it's not a big deal, but it's definitely it's always weird how these people, like in that environment, they'll say that shit almost like it's a brag, you know, like it's like the more fucked up thing you did to get arrested, it's like, you know what I mean, like, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does, and actually our county here has one of the worst jails in the country. The suicide rate is high. It's notorious. Basically, being in your cell is like solitary confinement for most jails, and especially prisons. You're in your cell 23 hours, maybe 20.
Jesus Christ, dude, the jail here is like a fucking day camp.
It's fucking nothing. It's not like that. Yeah, I mean, it's like 21 to 23 hours a day you're in your cell, something like that. Like you're out like 3 hours or 1 hour a day alternating. And actually I know exactly what you're talking about, because I had a cellmate. He was one of those like skinny, tall, white kids, real cocky, would walk around the cell like shadow boxing and shit. And I'm just trying to be an OG and just stay on my bunk and fucking read books, you know what I mean? Stay quiet. And I just got this vibe from him. I'm like, don't piss this guy off. And this is how fake those assholes are, is he asked me, he goes, "What's your twist, dog? What's your twist?" And I'm like, I don't know. I do some tech stuff, whatever. I don't know. And he just goes, what like that deep web shit? I'm like, yeah, some of that. And he goes, "Oh, I think that's where my uncle bought an Apache helicopter." And I wanted to facepalm myself right in front of the guy. I'm like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And it was just hilarious. But then he got switched into a different cell, and then I got out before I went back. And when I went back, they told me that he ended up killing like an 86-year-old man because he wouldn't give him his lunch. Like he just boxed the shit out of an 86-year-old man and killed this guy, and then went away for life. So I was like,
Sounds
I
like
was
an
right.
Antifa member.
Yeah, really.
Going after an old man, we want rights, we want civil justice. You're too big, you look strong. There's an old man, get him. Fucking cowards, dude. They're pieces of shit.
Yeah, I agree, but this guy, he was too stupid to even know what Antifa is, let alone fucking economics.
Let me
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I want to get your thoughts in here because during the tail end of my research, I learned that there were websites that have been shut down. So by the time that a guy like me gets this info, I know that it's like a year or 2 years after it mattered. You know what I mean? And I get that. But I learned that there were certain sites that were taken down. I think Playpen was one of them, XPlay. And the only reason I know about them was because apparently the feds were able to find out who these guys were, take control of the network, and then just knock them down and arrest everywhere. And I was seeing a lot of reports that a lot of these people who were uploading these websites with this terrible material, that they were getting arrested, that the feds were advancing. Is that something that's happening? Are the feds able to get technology, or are people getting hip to the deep web so that these people can get caught? Is that kind of happening, or is that's just wishful thinking?
Well, I mean, it's happening, but it's happening often because of public opinion. It's happening because it's in high demand. I mean, you have to think Hoover designed the FBI to control, social distance, civil distance, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not made to. It was never made to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
All the cop movies and shows and stuff like that, it portrays something a little bit different than what really goes on. And I'm not saying that the FBI doesn't do good work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they do good work. I'm just saying that if you have, all right, so when we work, it's like you have to create a dossier that's big enough that two assholes get to walk in their boss's office and slap it on his desk and be like, we can get the conviction. Because the thing is that this shit takes resources, which takes money. And the boss will literally, captain, whatever the fuck their stupid titles are, will literally tell them, no, we can't afford it. And that's a big reason why when the Fed, you heard all the old stories about mobsters, how the Fed let them kill people because they needed the convictions. That's how it works. The feds don't come after you unless they can definitely get the conviction because they spent so much fucking money. I mean, that's part of the reason. You know what I mean? Now, you mentioned Playpen. Oh, boy. Where do I start? So I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of it, but it's really not that technical anyways. Basically, one of the admins fucked up severely while the feds were, surveilling Playpen. And then the feds turned around and offered what we call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So what they do is, okay, yes, they got a crowning achievement, even though they just tried to make it look like they have the best hackers in the world and you should be afraid of the FBI.
To freak people out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And really what happened was that one of the admins did something tremendously stupid and the feds moved in on them. And then I think 6 or 8, maybe even 18 months later, I don't want to get into how I know this.
Sure, it's fine.
But they had a 0.00056% conviction rating on 200,000 active users on Playpen. They just it was and I know this in part because people were trying to say that the Tor browser was broken, and it's not. It wasn't. It never was. It's just they fucked up. So the Playpen got busted, and the FBI comes out and tries to say, Tor browser is fucked, basically, and everyone's freaking out. And then someone had to put people up on game on the fact that no, They didn't do shit. Someone just fucked up, and they just waited for them to fuck up. It's no different than when Sabu got caught. He logged into an RSS feed without a proxy, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you remember that whole Sabu business.
I don't know who that is, no.
Oh, it was the whole thing where
I've heard that before.
Oh, Sabu was a member of one of the earlier kind of era of quote unquote anonymous, and there's documentaries about this. And basically, he logged into a chat without network obfuscation, and the feds were looking at them because they were defacing websites and trolling the shit out of big companies. And he flipped and went to the feds. And the interesting thing is that he turned around and he gave O'Day, which is, I don't know if you know what O'Day is.
Mm-mm.
O'Day, okay, so there's proprietary software, which means that one company owns it, they own the rights to it, and no one else is allowed to see the code and the build of everything. And then there's open source, which is like Linux, for example, is an open source operating system, which a community works on, and everybody can see the code, right? So when you have an O-Day on something, it's when you have proprietary something, and you know something that even the company itself doesn't know that you have. So now you can sell it, or you can use it, right? And Sabu, this member of LulzSec, old LulzSec, started giving O-Day to people to, hack sites and whatnot. And as it turns out, it was all entrapment. The feds were creating or finding whatever, the O-Days, and I could be slightly butchering the story, but you get the gist. Everyone thought Sabu was the shit for the longest time, when really he was just working for the feds and handing out entrapment in the form of O-Days. And, a bunch of people got charged with shit. It was a whole thing. And that's the beginning of the end of the early era of Anonymous, because people stopped trusting one another. Everybody started wondering, are you a Fed? Are you a Fed? Are you a Fed? Look what happened with Sabu, which honestly, when it comes to OPSEC, like operational security, like you should have been asking that question in the first fucking place. So it was a lesson well learned, although I wish that, guys like Jeremy Hammond had not been convicted of anything. You know what I mean?
Damn, that's some fucked up shit. I mean, I want to ask this this question. I get to the end of that stuff. I guess I like that FUD kind of worked on me. It makes me think, oh well, they got a handle on this stuff, because the information, like just the idea that there were libraries of this filth. Like it was, my understanding is it wasn't just like a couple videos. Like it was just like, it was like the Pornhub of this stuff, and it's the idea that much of this content is out there is just terrifying.
I would also like to state that I never went near Playpen.
Sure, fair enough, absolutely, of course.
Not like as an, like I'm not trying to say like, I just mean in the bust itself. I had nothing to do with that. I just want to throw that out there. I just know like the conviction rating and like kind of like how they caught the people and shit. But I wouldn't have touched that with a 10-foot pole. That scared the shit out of me.
I think the thing that freaked, like definitely the Elsa Gate thing, started freaking me the fuck out, dude. And but then finding out about the finders and going on like straight up like FBI website, looking through their files and looking up finders, and there's fucking files there, and you're reading through it, and it's like, it's not some conspiracy. Like this was a group of people. They got caught with kids, and because of political power and people they knew, they were released and given back those children.
It's fucking terrifying.
It's on the FBI website. Like, I'm not making it up. You can go fucking read it for yourself. It's fucking insane.
Oh, I believe it. I don't know if you remember when Obama actually, I don't know what that stupid luncheon they have is when he like addresses people, but he was talking about freedom of the press. Meanwhile, he had a guy locked up in Guantanamo Bay who was a Libyan, I believe it was Libyan journalist who released stories about how we had an illegal drone program over Libya, which he knew because a fucking drone crashed in Libya. And he took pictures of it and released stories about it, and they told him stop it, and he's like, no, this is illegal, I'm going to write about it. And they threw him in Guantanamo Bay, and then fucking Obama turned around and talked about freedom of the press. That's who these people are. It's fucking bullshit.
I don't know if I believe that. Obama told me he was going to close Guantanamo Bay. He promised.
Right. He said so. So waiting on it. He's going to come back, and I mean, it's rather. I could just keep like, and that's it. I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your ass, but it's interesting stuff. It's interesting stuff to hear about because, like I said, I know I'm not smart enough to know what's going on and how and that's the thing. There's a sense of defeatism when it's like, dude, I couldn't fight this shit if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have the skills. I'm only one guy. But it's interesting to hear about. I guess, in your opinion, do you think that is it still just the Wild West out there? Like, is it still a thing? And people might be listening, and they might, obviously, they might be worried about the safety of their own children, which is, it's a good thing for us to be concerned about. I think it definitely made me a better parent because I take this shit seriously. I want to know who's watching my kid all the fucking time now. Is this shit still like the Wild West out there, or are people on the run? What do you think? And of course, not that you would know by participating in it, but from what you hear from other activists and people who do the research.
It is way more prevalent than anyone is admitting.
Damn.
And there are private organizations who you can get involved with. I will. I tried to get involved with the nonprofits that are working on this, and their positions that are open are either distant or just out of the realm of my quote-unquote resume. But I will try to get links to that also, but it is way more prevalent than anyone is admitting. And the reason for that is, I mean, human trafficking and all this, it's the most despised thing in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And people know they have to keep their mouths shut. So if you want to talk about, the quietness of, say, drug dealers, I mean, that's nothing compared to how quiet people keep it in, the human trafficking community. And a lot of human traffickers, they're using thugs that aren't into kids. They're killers. They don't care about the kids. So it's like a structured organization. I mean, when you have that level of OPSEC, you're not going to conduct it in a way where it's like there's no element of, hey, don't touch the merchandise. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a very hard thing to navigate for everybody. And I'm not going to say it's like the Wild West, but I will say, if you are a parent, to all the parents out there, be very, very careful about you have to be able to let your kids be kids and let them have freedoms and things like that. But, I mean, I had an interesting childhood, and it started with a park that was down the street. So you have to kind of meet them and you in the middle. The most important thing is communication. I wouldn't have been mad at my parents for trying to kind of shelter me if they had explained the realities of the world to me. What bothers me is when parents just authoritatively say, no, 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 no. And you as a child says, why? And your parents go, because I'm in fucking charge.
Right.
Even without the profanity, it's still like a slap in the face.
Sure.
So my number one tip to parents, if you want to genuinely have your kids in line, is to communicate with them. And I have this thing, it's kind of a joke. There's this video, I'm sure you've seen it, it's a classic, maybe you haven't seen it, whatever. But it's this uncle and his nephew. And the video starts, and they're in Mexico, they're against this wall, and you hear a chainsaw start. And, of course, they get their heads cut off with a fucking chainsaw. And for years, this video circulated throughout the internet. And then, later, it came out that these guys died from the cartels over $20 in weed. Got their heads hacked off for $20 in weed. An uncle and the nephew. And it's like, is that what these people are dying for? And so I have this kind of running joke that I like to make people uncomfortable with. It's evil, I know. Where I tell people, the first time I find my kid with marijuana on him, I'm going to tell him, listen, sit down. I need to show you something. And right before they actually cut the guy's heads off, I'm going to stop the video. And I'm going to be like, you know where that was going. I don't care that you smoke weed. What I care about is who you're giving the money to. Okay?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
So that's the thing. And like,
I don't know, man. Weed's legal most places now.
yeah, but still, I mean, I've been saying this for years, so
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just mean, like, if you communicate with your child in that fashion, with that a level of bluntness, you have to respect the fact that they're not going to be kids forever. Like, and they're probably more mature than you think.
Right.
So if you just communicate with them in that fashion, they might avoid a bad situation, because most abductions in America especially are, I think it's something like 98%. It might be 89. I might be getting that fucked up. But as of like a couple of years ago, most of it abductions are from a family member.
Yeah, I've heard
random, that. Yeah, not just a random dude on the street who's like, stealing kids. What most human trafficking is foreign countries bringing people over here. It's like another slavery, which is why you don't hear about it, is because a lot of this stuff, I mean, these people don't even have social security numbers. And then you get entire communities within the United States of just people that don't technically exist. And
it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's what people are not talking about, because they don't know. Most people just don't know. And
do you think that's why there's a push for like open borders and that kind of thing?
Yeah, because the thing is like, one of my best friends is an ex-hooker, and she used to have, purposely have clients that were looking for little girls. God. Because she looked like a little girl, and she preferred that it would happen to her instead of a girl that was actually underage. And, she would just lie about her age, which is ironic because you usually hear about girls that lie to be overage, not underage. And they wouldn't necessarily be violent. She's a tough cookie, but that's the type of stuff that goes on, where, you got escorts that are like stepping in for underage girls because like they see what goes on and nobody's talking about it, because it's an uncomfortable subject. But it should be an uncomfortable subject, but it should also be an uncomfortable subject that we should be talking about. It's fucking uncomfortable. So get out of your comfort zone if we want to solve this problem. You should not need people like me to solve this problem. It's the blight of my existence. I wake up in cold sweats. I'm stressed out constantly. I used to check my car for bombs, like on a daily basis, because we pissed off the wrong people, and they had already blown up one person's car.
Damn.
ridiculous, like that I should even have to do this. But the thing is when you're a parent and you get a taste of what it's like to help someone,
Mm-hmm.
you can't stop. Like, I've tried to quit a lot, and there's this show that I like where captain says to a cop about like a sexual harassment allegation. He says, "You know damn well no one in their right mind would ever date a cop." And I was watching this show and I'm thinking to myself, that's me. It's just, I just don't have a fucking badge. Like, no one in their right mind would ever want to date me, which I know plenty of people that would argue with me about that statement, but that's just like the way it feels sometimes. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, why the fuck would you like be in a room with me with the shit that's going on in my head? You know what I mean? And it's an interesting, thing to like go through, because like I said at the very beginning of the podcast, it's like you just wake up one day and you realize, oh my God, I was obsessed with this thing and now I'm just this guy and I don't know what to do with that. And it's, but at the end of the day, like, I'm helping people and you can't turn your back on that. It's just, it is what it is.
Well, I guess it's kind of a good place to stop because you kind of brought it all the way back to the beginning. But yeah, I mean, you don't know us from a hole in the ground. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you taking the time to just share some of that shit. I mean, and even hearing some of your stories, I mean, this is stuff that I guess it's on the normie web. You can find it, but it's still just sort of puts a chill up your spine, and it just makes you fucking sad. You know what I mean? But if you've helped people, man, I'm glad to know that there are people who know how to help that are helping. So I appreciate the time for sure.
Well, I appreciate you letting me talk so goddamn much. I thought it was going to be a little bit, Jesus. but no, I hope it just brings light to the issues. And you know what? I don't really see anything in here that needs to be redacted. Fuck it. I mean, I've made enough risks. Why not?
Okay, awesome.
But thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming on. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was fucking great. And I knew that's the way I structured it too. I was like, I'm not gonna I don't have certain people come on and I prepare questions. Like, I didn't prepare any questions. I'm just like, here's a topic, and I knew it was just gonna be boom, and I'm just gonna take us on this ride, and it was just really good shit, man. So yeah, all the best to you, and hopefully we'll speak again some other time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We're working on me doing a couple shows and stuff like that. So I hope to see you guys on our stuff. Well, you know what? Can I do it? Fuck it. Yeah. So my friend Rose from Crow 777 Radio, shout out to her. Her and I want to do a show where we're basically shooting the shit, but it's going to come across as a pretty, there's a theme, but it's, just her and I talking.
Sure.
I got, Attila Keltzer and I wanted to do some stuff together. I really don't know where the hell he's been, but I know that he's kind of an off-grid type of guy. So when he disappears, and that's all good. I am going to be a quote-unquote private consultant for a online institute. I don't have permission from my boss to disclose exactly what the name is, but in the future I'm sure people will figure it out, so shout out to them. And besides that, I mean, I think that covers it.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, thanks again if you've been listening to Decentralize Now, and be sure to like the Facebook page. It's pretty much where our community is at the moment. If you've wondered where Busted is, he's been in the gulag because he's been Faceberged insanely amount. So hopefully, I don't know, what are you thinking about coming up with a new profile soon, or how are we getting out of this situation, Busted?
I don't know, dude. I'm freaked the fuck out. Like, I'm freaked the fuck out because, like, I had I got fucking kicked, and then I made a new account, like, immediately from a different computer and everything that, like, my account and everything's set up on.
They kicked the second one?
The second one wasn't even up for 10 days. I think I might have gotten a week out of it. Sorry, I keep coughing. I got coronavirus. fucking, it wasn't even up a full week, and without any sort of notification, without any sort of like policy breaches or anything like that, any sort of like notifications to let me know I had done something wrong, just all of a sudden, like literally in the middle of me being on Facebook, like posting shit, it just all of a sudden pops up, oh, due to limitations on your account, you can't do that right now. And there's no time frame. It's just like, yeah, go fuck yourself. You can't do that. And then last night, my account that's been fucking, fucked over, it's been banned for 30 days. I was down to 20 days, and I logged on just to like see notifications and shit, because I can still look at stuff on there. And just like boom, 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 like 5-6 things popped up. 30 days for this. 30 days for this. 30 days for this. And I mean, these were like comments that, like, in my personal opinion, were not a big deal compared to some of the stuff I say. I've said way harsher stuff than any of the stuff I actually got in trouble for. But it was like 5 or 6 things, and they just came up. Boom, I'd click it out. Boom, here's another one. Boom, here's another one. 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, like, this stuff was super old. So I got banned, and then either somebody got vindictive, or fucking feds are interested in some shit I've said, or something, or Facebook's interested in some shit I said. I don't know. They must have gone through all of my shit and just started looking for stuff and reporting it.
Damn, I don't know how you're gonna get around that. I don't know, because you said you use a new computer. I don't know if you need to get like I don't know if you can. You already use a proxy though, is that right? You already use a VPN.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, I don't know, dude. It was weird when I made the second account. It was already like linked up to Decentralize Now somehow, but I never did that. I didn't do that.
Are we still on the air?
yeah. We are recording, so we'll wrap it up. I just wanted to let everybody know, hey, Bus has been gone, but we're gonna try to rectify that situation because he's been pushing the podcast.
I was just gonna say that the proxies and VPNs might actually not be working in your favor. I had a lot of problems with social media when I was trying to obfuscate. And now I use my real name, and it just, they don't, unless I say something completely horrid, they really don't give a shit about what I do compared to when I was trying to obfuscate. So I don't know.
Maybe just try going clean and they leave you alone, is that what you're saying?
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you to. I'm just throwing it out there because I don't know why the fuck I'm doing anything clean.
Well, anyway, I guess we'll leave it there. But yeah, stick around and go to Facebook, like the podcast, Breaker. We should have it up on Breaker as well, and we'll see you soon.